Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a look at the life and legacy of Mikhail Gorbachev. But we're not just going to look at him as a historical figure, we're going to look at him as an architect of massive structural change. I mean, think about it. When you need to transform a rigid, massive system, how exactly do you pull that off?
So how did a boy from a farming village change global politics forever? It's an absolutely incredible journey. And today, we're going to distill his life story into actual, actionable steps for enacting change. Whether you're looking at, say, a struggling business, a community project, or even just trying to overhaul your own personal goals, the blueprint he used offers some really incredible practical insights.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it lays out our agenda. First, we'll look at his rise from a peasant to supreme leader. Then, Step 1, identify challenges. Step 2, reform and openness. Step 3, dialogue and peace. And finally, the blueprint of change and lessons. This isn't just an outline, folks. It's literally a step-by-step blueprint for resolving conflicts and driving transformation in any complex system.
All right, Section 1, a peasant to supreme leader. Because every architect of change, well, they have to start with a solid foundation built on hard work and discipline. So, back in 1931, Gorbachev was born in Privolnoye to a peasant family. And you know, that rural childhood really instilled this deep discipline and an absolute value for hard labor in him. But as we know, hard work alone doesn't build skyscrapers, right? You need the right tools. So he pursued a legal education and entered politics. It was this unique combination of grit and intellect that steadily propelled him forward, all the way up until he became the supreme leader of the Soviet Union in 1985.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Step 1, identify challenges, basically diagnosing the problem before attempting any renovations.
Picture this, it's 1985, and Gorbachev inherits a stagnant system that's just burdened by severe economic strain, plummeting oil prices, and intense bureaucratic paralysis. Imagine a sprawling, massive house, but it's got a cracking foundation and leaking pipes. That was the USSR at the time. To fix it, he absolutely needed a clear vision for the future, one focused on comprehensive reforms and dynamic growth. Actionable Step 1 for any leader is acknowledging reality. You can't fix a crumbling foundation if you're pretending the concrete is perfectly fine, right? He had to identify exactly what was failing so he could target his structural renovations.
Which brings us to Step 2, reform and openness. This was his massive two-pronged renovation plan to fix the Soviet system.
The very first phase of this renovation was perestroika. This basically meant economic and administrative restructuring. Sticking with our house analogy, this was the equivalent of repairing the foundation and literally knocking down walls that were blocking progress. The Soviet administrative system was incredibly rigid and centralized, so perestroika was this massive structural overhaul that was desperately needed to decentralize control and get the economy actually moving again.
And this brilliantly illustrates the second phase, glasnost, which means increased openness, transparency, and freedom of expression. If perestroika was fixing the foundation, glasnost was throwing open the windows to let in some fresh air and light. For decades, you see, the system had been totally closed off and secretive. By finally allowing society to breathe, to freely discuss new ideas, and actually point out where the house still needed fixing, he proved that true transparency is absolutely essential to making structural reforms work.
Moving on to Step 3, dialogue and peace. Because a master architect doesn't just focus on the inside of the house, they also have to work cooperatively with their neighbors. On the global stage, Gorbachev took immediate, actionable steps. Step 1, reduce Cold War tensions. Step 2, limit the nuclear arms race. And Step 3, build global cooperation. He firmly believed that massive conflicts are resolved through communication rather than just stockpiling weapons. And this showed a strict preference for dialogue over conflict, proving that true leadership strength comes from building bridges, not building higher walls.
And by the year 1990, his unyielding commitment to limiting weapons and fostering global cooperation had entirely changed the direction of international relations. That specific year is crucial because his efforts were recognized globally when he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. It was absolute proof that his commitment to international peace was a monumental, tangible achievement.
Finally, let's look at the blueprint of change and lessons. We'll look at the historical outcomes and the actionable takeaways that we can actually apply today. In 1991, the Soviet Union officially dissolved, leaving behind a profoundly complex legacy of massive political and social change. History really shows us that sweeping structural renovations carry totally unpredictable results. Today, some historians view Gorbachev as a highly courageous reformer who took absolutely necessary steps, while others heavily criticize the ultimate outcomes of his decisions. But regardless of the perspective, the immense scale of the change his policies set into motion is simply undeniable. So, the crucial point is, what are the overarching lessons from this blueprint? Well, true change requires immense courage and a clear vision for change. It means deliberately choosing dialogue over conflict and understanding that transparency actually strengthens a society rather than weakening it. True leadership isn't simply about wielding power. It's about taking on the heavy responsibility of peaceful problem solving, pursuing education for better decisions, and enacting timely renovations before the house completely collapses.
Gorbachev used transparency and dialogue to change a superpower. So where can you apply these steps in your own life today? Think about it, the stagnant systems in your work, maybe your community, or even your personal habits. Could you use a little perestroika to restructure your foundation? Could you use glassness to throw open the windows to transparent communication? Take this step-by-step blueprint and see where you can be the architect of change. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope you start building your own positive change today.